Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive.
From AI-inspired insights from farmers.
If you're enjoying what we're doing here, we'd love to hear from you too.
Absolutely.
Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and definitely leave a comment telling us what you want to see more of on this deep dive.
We're always looking for new ideas, and we really value your feedback.
So what farm-related mysteries are you dying to uncover?
Right.
What questions are keeping you up at night? Let us know, and maybe we'll tackle them in a future deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling regenerative agriculture, and we're going to be exploring, its potential role in combating climate change. And
It's a great topic.
yeah, I'm excited about this one. Since you're new to farming, we'll break down the basics and show you why this approach is generating so much buzz. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's really interesting because regenerative agriculture goes beyond simply sustaining resources.
Right.
It's about actively improving them by working in harmony with natural cycles. So
That's kind of a new concept for a lot of people, I think.
it is for a lot of people, yeah. Imagine a farm that not only produces food, but actually improves the environment.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's the core idea here.
So how does this all connect to climate change? I've heard the Rodale Institute, a leading name in organic farming research, has some pretty compelling findings.
Yeah, they do. They have some really interesting research that indicates that regenerative organic agriculture could potentially sequester more carbon from the atmosphere than we currently emit.
Wow.
So if you think about it, that's potentially reversing climate change
Really?
through farming.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
That's a huge statement to make.
Yeah.
So, could you explain how conventional agriculture contributes to climate change in the first place?
Sure. Yeah. So, since the advent of agriculture, our farming practices have led to significant carbon loss from the soil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're talking about like a 30 to 75% reduction in soil carbon compared to pre-agricultural levels.
Wow, that's a huge loss.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was that significant.
Yeah, and the consequences are really far-reaching.
Yeah.
Modern agriculture alone accounts for around 10% of annual greenhouse gas emissions.
Wow.
And then when you consider the entire food system,
Right.
processing, transportation, and everything in between, that figure jumps to a staggering 30%.
So food production is a major contributor to climate change.
It is, huh?
That's a sobering thought.
It is, but this is where regenerative organic agriculture steps in. Okay, it's not just about sustainability.
Right.
It's about restoring and enhancing the soil's capacity to store carbon.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how does it actually work? What makes regenerative agriculture different?
So it's all about mimicking natural processes.
Okay.
Things like cover crops,
Okay.
composting, crop rotation, minimal tillage.
Right.
These practices aren't new,
Right.
but we're now really understanding their scientific basis and potential.
So it's kind of like a combination of traditional wisdom and modern science.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and by implementing these practices, you can transform your farm into what we call a carbon sink,
Okay.
essentially pulling CO2 out of the atmosphere and storing it in the soil.
That's amazing. It's like turning farms into climate change warriors.
Yeah.
That's really neat. So how much carbon can regenerative agriculture actually sequester?
Well, the Rodale Institute's data suggests that it has the potential to sequester more than 100% of current annual CO2 emissions.
Wow.
Yeah. Their long-term research shows that systems employing regenerative practices consistently sequester significantly more carbon compared to conventional methods.
Okay.
For instance, a corn-soybean wheat rotation incorporating organic practices and no-till sequestered over 1 metric ton of carbon per hectare per year.
That's amazing. So how does that sequestration actually happen? What's going on beneath the surface?
So healthy soil is teeming with microbial life, bacteria, fungi, you name it.
Yeah.
Think of it as a bustling underground city.
Right.
The more life in your soil, the more carbon it can hold.
So a healthy, diverse ecosystem below ground translates to a healthier environment above ground.
Precisely. And there are these remarkable fungi called mycorrhizal fungi.
Mycorrhizal.
Fungi
Okay.
that play a crucial role in this process.
Wow.
They form these intricate networks, almost like a web connecting plant roots and soil.
Okay.
These networks not only enhance nutrient uptake, but also create long-lasting soil aggregates.
Soil aggregates. I'm not
Yes.
familiar with that.
They're clusters of soil particles bound together by organic matter, and those sticky substances produce produced by the fungi.
Okay.
These aggregates are like tiny carbon vaults, protecting the sequestered carbon and ensuring its long-term storage.
So it's not just about storing carbon, it's about storing it securely.
Exactly.
This is all so fascinating.
It is, but I know what you might be thinking now.
What's that?
Can regenerative agriculture really feed the world if yields are lower?
That's a valid concern. Can we have both environmental sustainability and food security?
That's the million-dollar question. It's a complex issue with a nuanced answer.
Okay.
While some studies do show lower yields initially, others demonstrate organic yields matching or even exceeding conventional, especially during challenging conditions like drought.
So it's not necessarily about producing more food, but producing it more reliably and sustainably.
Exactly. It's about building resilience in our farming systems.
Right.
A healthy, carbon-rich soil is more adaptable to stress, which is increasingly important in a changing climate.
For sure.
And remember, we already produce enough food globally.
That's true.
The real challenges lie in distribution and access.
That makes a lot of sense. But let's be honest, shifting to regenerative practices on a large scale seems like a really daunting task.
Yeah, you're right. There are complexities.
Yeah.
Soil carbon sequestration rates can vary depending on soil type, climate, and the specific practices used.
Right.
More research is crucial, especially in diverse climates and farming contexts.
All right.
But the research we do have is promising.
Okay.
The Rodale Institute, for example, has launched a new tropical farming systems trial in Costa Rica to study how regenerative practices perform in different environments.
That's great.
This research will be vital in refining our understanding and demonstrating its potential on a global scale.
It sounds like regenerative agriculture isn't just about growing food, it's about creating a more sustainable and resilient future.
It is as you embark on your farming journey, remember that you have the power to be part of the solution. Every choice you make can contribute to a healthier planet.
That's inspiring. Before we move on, let's recap the key takeaways so far.
Okay.
Regenerative agriculture is a holistic approach to farming that aims to mimic natural processes
Right.
to improve soil health, enhance biodiversity, and sequester carbon.
Yeah.
It's not just about sustainability, it's about regeneration. Now, let's delve into the specifics. What are some of the key practices that make regenerative agriculture so effective? We'll explore those right after.
Oh, so good.
We'll explore those next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's dive into those key practices.
Right.
Remember how conventional agriculture often leaves the soil bare and exposed?
Right.
That's a major issue because it allows precious carbon to escape back into the atmosphere.
Right, like leaving the door wide open for our carbon savings to disappear.
Exactly. That's where a practice called conservation tillage comes in.
Okay.
Instead of aggressively tilling the soil, we minimize disturbance,
Right.
helping to keep that carbon locked underground.
Okay.
Research shows this can have a remarkable impact on both soil structure and greenhouse gas emissions.
So less disruption means more carbon storage. It sounds simple enough, but I imagine there's more to it than just reducing tillage.
You're absolutely right. It's most effective when it's part of a holistic organic system.
Okay.
Using synthetic fertilizers, for example, can actually counteract the benefits of no-till.
Really?
They can release nitrous oxide, which is a potent greenhouse gas.
Wow.
So it's all about finding that balance.
That makes sense. And that's where cover crops come into play, right?
Yeah.
They seem to be a hot topic in regenerative agriculture.
Cover crops are essentially plants that we grow between our main cash crops.
Okay.
They act like a protective blanket for the soil, shielding it from erosion, helping to build organic matter, and even suppressing weeds.
It's like giving the soil a superhero cape. Plus, they add so much beauty to a farm. I love the visual of fields bursting with colorful wildflowers or a lush carpet of clover.
Yeah, it's about working with nature's palette. And from a carbon sequestration perspective, cover crops are essential.
Okay.
They're pulling in CO2 from the atmosphere and channeling it back into the soil, feeding that underground ecosystem.
It's amazing how these practices work together. Speaking of working together, what about crop rotation? I've heard that's another important element of regenerative agriculture.
Crop rotation is crucial. Think of it like diversifying your soil's portfolio.
Okay.
By rotating crops, we prevent the depletion of specific nutrients and disrupt pest and disease cycles, making the entire system more resilient, especially in a changing climate.
So variety is key, both above and below ground. And then there's composting, which always seems like magic to me, turning what many consider waste into this valuable resource.
Composting is like hitting the fast forward button on soil health.
Okay.
It's taking organic matter, like leaves, food scraps, and manure,
Right.
and transforming them into a nutrient-rich gold mine for the soil, boosting its ability to hold on to carbon.
And the research backs this up, right? I've read that adding compost can significantly increase soil organic carbon.
Absolutely. Studies have shown that fields using compost can see a major boost in soil organic carbon and improved soil structure, leading to healthier, more productive plants.
Wow.
Some research has even found that fields incorporating composted manure into their crop rotations sequester over 2 metric tons of carbon per hectare per year.
That's impressive. It's like turning farms into these incredible carbon capturing machines.
Exactly. But here's the key takeaway.
Okay.
These practices work best together, not in isolation.
Right.
It's about creating a holistic system that works in harmony with the unique conditions of your farm.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about understanding your land
Yeah.
and tailoring these practices to your specific context.
Precisely. It's about becoming a soil detective, understanding the nuances of your farm,
Yeah.
and finding that sweet spot where your farming goals and environmental sustainability align. And that's what makes regenerative agriculture so adaptable and exciting. It's not about rigid rules, it's about principles and continuous learning.
So it's about observation, experimentation, and ongoing adaptation, which makes me think about the research we discussed earlier. Ongoing research is essential, right? Especially when it comes to proving the yield potential of regenerative agriculture.
Absolutely. We need to keep exploring, testing, and sharing knowledge to unlock the full potential of these practices. And when it comes to yields, the research is more nuanced than many people realize.
Okay, so let's address that head on. Can regenerative agriculture truly feed the world if yields are sometimes lower, at least initially?
That's a fair question. The answer is yes, and here's why.
Okay.
While some studies do show lower yields during the transition from conventional practices,
Right.
many others show organic yields matching or even surpassing conventional yields,
Okay.
particularly in challenging conditions like drought.
So it's not just about producing more food, but producing it more consistently and reliably, even as our climate changes.
Exactly, and we can't forget that globally we already produce enough food.
That's true.
The bigger issue is distribution and access.
That's an important point. It seems like regenerative agriculture could actually help address those issues by supporting local communities and creating more resilient, decentralized food systems.
You're right, it has the potential to shift the paradigm, moving us away from a system focused solely on maximizing yields to one that prioritizes long-term sustainability and food sovereignty.
So while regenerative agriculture offers many potential benefits, it's not a magic bullet.
What are some of the challenges or complexities that we need to be aware of?
You're right, it's not a simple fix.
Yeah.
One challenge is that soil carbon sequestration rates can be influenced by various factors,
Okay.
including soil type, climate, and the specific management practices implemented.
So it's not as easy as saying, let's all switch to regenerative agriculture and climate change is solved. It requires a deeper understanding of the interconnected elements. Exactly. It demands careful planning, adaptation, and ongoing research to ensure we're maximizing the benefits of these practices in different contexts. And we also need to acknowledge that it takes time to realize the full benefits of regenerative agriculture.
Okay.
It's a long-term investment in soil health and a commitment to working in harmony with nature.
It sounds like patience and persistence are key, but I imagine the potential rewards are well worth the effort.
Absolutely. The rewards go far beyond climate change mitigation.
Okay.
Regenerative agriculture can enhance water quality, boost biodiversity, and create more resilient farming systems overall.
It's a win-win for both people and the planet.
Precisely. It's about creating a future where agriculture is a force for good, not just a source of food, but a source of solutions. And that brings us to another crucial aspect of regenerative agriculture,
Okay.
the human element.
Right.
It's about creating farming systems that are not only ecologically sound, but also socially just and economically viable.
That makes perfect sense. It's not just about the science, but about people, communities, and the livelihoods that depend on a healthy food system.
Exactly. We need to ensure that farmers have the knowledge, resources, and support they need to transition to regenerative practices. It's about fostering a movement, a network of collaboration and innovation where farmers can learn from each other and share their successes and challenges.
And organizations like the Rodale Institute are playing a vital role in that. Right. They're not just conducting research, they're educating and empowering farmers around the world.
Absolutely. They're demonstrating that another way of farming is possible, a way that nourishes both people and the planet.
Right.
And their work is crucial in raising awareness and inspiring action.
It sounds like we need a collective shift in perspective, a recognition that agriculture can be a powerful solution to many of the challenges we face.
I agree. It's time to move away from seeing agriculture solely as a source of food and embrace its potential as a powerful force for healing our planet.
So regenerative agriculture has the potential to restore our soil, sequester carbon, enhance biodiversity, and create a more just and sustainable food system.
It's a win-win for everyone involved, and it all starts with understanding and appreciating the power of healthy soil.
That's a great place to transition to our next topic. After a quick break, we'll explore the fascinating science behind carbon sequestration and delve deeper into how regenerative agriculture can help us turn the tide on climate change. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about, how regenerative agriculture can help address climate change. So now let's take a closer look at the science behind carbon sequestration.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating process. You can almost imagine it as like this hidden dance between the atmosphere, plants, and the soil.
Okay.
And it all starts with photosynthesis. Plants, in their incredible way, use sunlight to convert carbon dioxide from the air into sugars, which fuel their growth and energy needs.
It's like they're breathing in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen, nature's very own air purifier.
Exactly.
But how does that carbon end up stored in the soil?
So a portion of those carbon-rich sugars travels down through the plant's roots
Okay.
and is released into the soil. You can kind of think of the soil as like this vast carbon bank,
Okay.
receiving those deposits from the plants.
So the more plants grow, the more carbon gets deposited into the soil bank.
Exactly.
But what happens to the carbon once it's in the soil?
So here's where the magic of the soil ecosystem comes into play. Remember that bustling underground city we talked about?
Right, all the bacteria and fungi and all those other tiny creatures that make up a healthy soil ecosystem.
Exactly. As those microorganisms break down the carbon compounds,
Okay.
some of that carbon gets incorporated into stable forms of organic matter,
Okay.
effectively locking it away in the soil for the long haul.
So it's not just about the plants absorbing carbon. It's about that carbon being utilized and stored by the soil organisms. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And the healthier and more diverse the soil ecosystem, the more effective this carbon storage becomes, right?
Precisely, and this is where those regenerative practices we discussed, cover cropping, no-till farming, composting,
Right.
they all contribute to creating a thriving carbon-storing ecosystem beneath our feet.
And those mycorrhizal fungi we talked about earlier,
Mm-hmm.
they must be part of this underground carbon storage system too.
They're essential players.
Okay.
Remember how they form those intricate networks connecting plant roots and soil?
Right.
Well, these networks not only help plants access nutrients, but also produce a sticky substance called glomalin.
Glomalin, what is that?
So glomalin acts like a glue binding soil particles together
Okay.
and creating those stable soil aggregates we discussed earlier.
Okay.
These aggregates are like tiny carbon vaults, protecting the stored carbon from decomposition and ensuring it remains sequestered for extended periods.
So it's like building a secure, long-term storage system for carbon right in the soil. It's incredible how nature has its own mechanisms for regulating carbon. And the best part is, from what I understand, these regenerative practices can lead to relatively quick increases in soil organic carbon.
That's right. Studies show that within just a few years of implementing these practices, you can start to see significant improvements in soil carbon levels.
Wow.
This means we can make a real impact on climate change within a time frame that matters.
That's incredibly encouraging. It gives me hope that we can actually turn things around.
Yeah, it's certainly a powerful tool in our fight against climate change.
Yeah.
And the more we research and understand the science of carbon sequestration, the more effectively we can implement these practices to maximize their potential.
It's like we've uncovered this hidden treasure right beneath our feet, this vast reservoir of carbon that can help us heal the planet.
And the beauty of it is that regenerative agriculture goes beyond just addressing climate change.
Right.
It improves water quality, enhances biodiversity, and creates more resilient farming systems overall.
Right.
It's truly a holistic approach to creating a healthier planet.
It sounds like regenerative agriculture isn't just a farming method. It's almost like a way of life, a way of thinking about our relationship with the earth. It's about understanding that we're all interconnected, from the tiniest microorganisms in the soil to the air we breathe.
Well said. As you embark on your farming journey, remember that you have the power to make a difference. Every decision you make can contribute to a more sustainable and regenerative future.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of regenerative agriculture. We hope you've learned something new and are as inspired as we are by its potential.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those soils healthy. Remember, the future is in our hands, literally.
Happy farming. Hitting that like button and smash that subscribe.